Now, people quote from John Winthrop the vision of the city on the hill, but they rarely quote what else he said right after that. He said this. It was a prophetic warning, also based on Moses' words in Deuteronomy 28. He said, but, if we turn away from God, if we deal falsely with him, if we go after other gods, the gods of our prophets, like money, our pleasures, then in effect, he said, the judgments that came on ancient Israel would come upon America. Now, interesting, and I'm going to speak more about this in a few moments, but the Harbinger is basically, when I was led to write that book, is seeing the same patterns, the judgments of Israel with America. But it's a prophetic warning that he gave embedded in the foundation of the nation. So what happened to ancient Israel? God blessed it, but in the midst of its blessings, it turned from God. It began subtly at first, then increasingly brazenly. It drove God out of its public squares, drove God out of its culture, drove God out of its lives. It promoted sexual immorality. What was evil, it now called good. What was good, it now called evil. It offered up its own children as sacrifices to the gods, and then began persecuting the righteous who still upheld the word of God. What happened to America? The same thing. We have followed the footsteps of ancient Israel in its fall. At the height of blessing in the 20th century, we turned away from God. Slowly and subtly at first, and it's not that it's just one moment, but there are key landmarks, like removing prayer from the schools. That was once a big thing. Now it's hard for us to even imagine that teachers would lead the children in prayers to God. But then it was radical to do what they did. We drove God out of our, first subtly, then it became, now it's manifesting full force. We drove God out of our public squares, out of our government, out of our schools, out of our life, out of our culture. We embraced and promoted sexual immorality, just as Israel did. What is of sin, we called good. What is of God, we have called evil. We have killed not thousands of children, we have killed 60 million children in abortion. We now see signs of the persecution of the righteous coming, canceling, boycotting, castigating, prosecuting. You can see it becoming evident in the 1960s, but it has not stopped. It has advanced. Even with conservative presidents, the culture has continued. It's like a ball on top of a hill that starts rolling very slowly and then gets more and more momentum. So it's racing, and that's where we are now. America's racing. Things that would have shocked us years ago cause a flood of outrage and uproar, now barely get any notice. It's as if now America is at war with America, at least what America was. And the nation that's called by the name America is not the same nation that most of us or many of us were born into. Last night I was doing a late run to the supermarket for diapers, and I'm walking out, and an old guy is walking. I mean, most people don't say hi to each other; they don't know each other. You know, they don't say anything. But he goes like this. He goes, "Happy 4th." Happy 4th. But it was almost like the 4th of July has become almost muted in view of everything else that's happening in the culture. A month of celebrating other things. It's almost as if this is almost like an underground thing. Of course, it's happening all over, but it's not like it used to be when this was it. Oh, America. It's not like that anymore. It was almost like that, and it's the basic foundations of American civilization. Those things I told you about. Not just the dedication to God, we know that, but all those things that came from it are now being undermined and overturned. Freedom of speech, dissent, conscience. No, I don't go along with a mob. I don't go along with a crowd. Certainly the sanctity of life. What we're watching now, some have called soft totalitarianism, where everybody, think about it, a totalitarian dictatorship government, everybody has to say the same thing. We're watching that in America now. Not coming from a dictator, but coming from the culture. Where everybody has to express the same thing, and if anybody says something different, they are punished. Right. And what, you know, it's in communist and fascist regimes where when that happens, the person has to confess their sins against the state publicly. Well, we're watching people confess. They say something, then they're confessing and confessing and confessing. Where words are changed in order to change thought, and thoughts are changed to change reality. Where children, think about a dictatorship, a totalitarian. Children are indoctrinated in those places from early childhood into the ways of the new ideology. That's happening now in America. Children are being indoctrinated. Just within the last, I think, 2 days, the greatest, the largest union of teachers, I think the NEA, voted to put in a leftist doctrine into all schools that they could, and in which it goes against things like heterosexuality, teaching from youth. This is not in the notes. I tell I'm a little looser on the sex. I was just praying with an elderly woman, great-grandmother, who's in tears saying, my great-granddaughter thinks she's a boy. She's in tears. This is what we're doing to the children. The new ideology seeps into everything, into media, into government, into the judicial system, education, schools, children's cartoons, businesses, corporations. You notice it's more and more every year. The army now is in it. The sports are in it. Everything. Hi, I'm Jonathan Cahn, and I hope you were blessed with the video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. Feel free to share your reactions with your comments and how you were blessed, and share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.